Hello, 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 and welcome to this is a Go Home Heat podcast, a Ray's Music Reviews portion. We are doing a review of, should we call it a classic?
It's a classic.
It's been 10 years.
A modern day classic.
I mean, it's been 10 years, so on your description of modern day.
What does modern day cover? That's a topic for a different podcast, though.
Anyways, Kanye West, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. I don't really need to have to explain, like...
One of the most important rap albums of the last decade, and it came out right at the beginning. Like, 2010 came out swinging.
One of the most important, maybe the biggest second wind any hip-hop artist ever got.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Holy moly.
So, before this, I'd be surprised if you didn't know who Kanye was. If you were talking on this podcast, because he is so...
I mean, even in general, just not knowing who Kanye is.
He did run for president.
He did run for president. That was true.
Although they couldn't seem to find an image of him when they were running the election results.
Yeah, there was one poll that had, like, Trump, Biden, and Kanye, and Trump and Biden had pictures, but they could not find a picture for, like, Kanye West?
Right.
Kanye?
His wife literally does a selfie every hour.
He's got to be at least in the background of one of those.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And his discography, I mean, he's got...
And before this, he put out College Dropout, Late Registration, and then, like, those are what are recited as classics, at least those two. And then after this, he dropped Yeezus, which was a little underwhelming. Then he dropped Pablo, which I'm more infatuated with the garbage surrounding life of Pablo than the actual album.
Yeah, I still have one of the early copies of Pablo, where I, like, downloaded it off the internet, just like one of the early ones before he started, like, switching up the production and switching stuff out.
Yeah.
So when I listened to the album on Spotify a while back, I was like, whoa, I don't recognize, like, chunks of this album.
Right. I actually like Pablo.
I like Pablo too. I think it's a little hit or miss, but I like it.
Especially there is I can't really combat the argument that there is actually no thematic consistency whatsoever.
I do think that's one of the strikes against the album for me.
And then he released his now album. Then he went on the 2018 spree.
Yeah.
Right? Yay, Kids See Ghosts. And that now he's released Jesus is King, which is probably his most critically bashed album.
Panned across the board.
Sorry. This is the backstory. In this album, when it happened right after the Taylor thing happened, right?
Like 1 year afterwards, roughly.
The Taylor Swift incident in which he goes on the stage and says Queen Bee should have got it.
I mean, he was right.
Oh, yeah, they leave out that part.
Yeah, they always leave that part out, but he was like, right?
Yeah.
Funnily enough. But no, he talks about that a lot on the album. In different ways, whether it's making fun of SNL writers for making fun of it.
Yeah.
Which I thought was
it's just
petty.
It's super petty, but...
It adds to the flavor of this album.
And Obama called him a jerk. All this stuff happened, and he was either bound to fail or bound to succeed. And, well,
I mean,
he made this album, which combined the elements of all of his earlier albums and later albums.
He pulled in a lot of, like, favors. Not favors exactly, but just, like, with all the features and production, just, like, monumental figures did production and features on it. Jay-Z, RZA, Raekwon,
Rick Ross. I mean,
Rihanna.
Elton John.
Crazy. Elton John's on this album, which is wild. John Legend. Wolf.
Nicki Minaj, Chris Rock.
The Chris Rock feature.
Yeah, right. There's a lot. He throws everything. Kitchen sink, everything he's got. He threw at the wall there. And in this case, a great deal of it stuck.
There's so much.
Should we get like?
Let's get into it. Nuts and bolts.
I didn't actually have I didn't actually have questions for this, so I guess we're just gonna do this track by track this time.
I mean, the questions are usually about the same when it comes to like, oh, what do you think of the opening track, which was
Dark Fantasy.
Dark Fantasy. I like it. I think it's a good tone setter for the album.
I like it a lot.
I like the weird Nicki poem at the beginning. I like just, can we get much higher?
Oh yeah, just that to start it out.
The fact that the borderline is so maximalist is kind of, it's super Kanye.
Oh, it's super Kanye.
Especially that Urkel's on your team. That's why your Winslow line.
There's a couple lines. There's like almost one from every song that I want to bring up. That's probably my favorite line on the whole album, though. Is got too many Urkels on your team. That's why your Winslow. That's like a GOAT line.
Yeah.
That is the hardest.
Just phenomenal.
And now Gorgeous.
Again, I really like Gorgeous.
I liked Gorgeous. I kind of view it as the kind of the smoke after Dark Fantasy's explosion. In a lot of ways, I especially like it for its. I like the vocal effect on Kanye. It's almost like he's forcing you to pay attention to him. In a ways, and I also feel like the lyrics are just lyrically. This song is golden.
I agree.
Just overall,
I'm not
great song.
The most thrilled with some of the backing music on it, but 100% the lyricism is really pretty damn good across all the verses. I mean, it's Kanye. There's always going to be a couple lines where you're going to roll your eyes because he says some terrible pun or something, but that's part of Kanye's charm. Is that he'll say something that's just like super impactful, and then the next line just like do a weird pun. And it's like, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's who he is.
Yeah, I mean,
that's who he is.
That's his flavor, man.
Right.
Now sorry.
Go ahead.
Now we're gonna move on. Do you have something to say?
No.
Now we have Power, the most popular song on the album. That's correct, right? Power.
That it was my first kind of taste of this album was when I was playing, I think, Saints Row 3, and that song was in it quite a bit. Then I went and checked out the full album because of that. And I mean, dude, this song, wow.
It's really good.
It's really good. It is finely crafted. The production's phenomenal. The frickin' sample from King Crimson, dude, it's perfect.
And it's only 3 samples.
Yeah.
It's the drums, the hey honk chant, and the King Crimson thing.
Yeah,
but it sounds like so much more is going on.
Oh God, just the cacophony is so good. It's so thematically perfect for what the song's talking about.
And one thing that I thought was really cool was when Kanye said, "I got the power to make your life so exciting," and then when "so exciting" fades out, it starts to sound like the word suicide.
Oh. And
then it transitions into "it's a be a beautiful death jumping out the window."
Which is, dude, that outro, oh my God. It's so good. It's so good.
It's crazy. Should we do All of the Lights with the interlude or just disregard it?
I really like the interlude. The interlude's really, really pretty.
I think because it's so beautiful and peaceful, it is kind of astounding that something so beautiful and peaceful could follow up something so maximalist to the point where the actual song All of the Lights almost feels kind of naked without it.
You're right. No, I agree.
All of the Lights, I actually need to tell a story about All of the Lights, about how it was produced. Basically, Kanye would get someone in the studio, and because the person that he brought up that just thought he was gonna like drop a verse or sing a lyric or something, Kanye just said, "Oh, sing a melody, any melody," and then they sang that melody, and then he put that melody into the beat.
I mean, I can't even for how most of the production on this album turned out, that's perfect. You know?
Yeah. And also,
it's unique, it's interesting, it's layered, it's good.
And also,
layered is a key throughout the whole thing.
Here's another bit of a phenomenal fact. Everything else in this song has no samples. Everything else is completely organic. They got a whole orchestra to do the trumpets.
Oh, it sounds so good. The horns, oh.
I think lyrically this song kind of keeps with the flow and consistency of the rest of the album.
Mm-hmm.
I think my real favorite part of it is definitely the explosion at the end when Elton John shows up.
Just love Elton John, man. I can't get enough. Every time I see him in a feature of something, dude, it's phenomenal. It's Elton John.
It's just kind of that moment where it's like, whoa, Elton John's on this?
Mm-hmm.
You hear it and it's like, oh, what?
Could it be?
What? What do you guys think?
I love it. I love this song. The first part of this whole thing is good. I mean, I get if some of it rubs you the wrong way, because there are parts of it that I kind of cringe at a little bit. But by the same token, it tends to be, I feel like it's an honest, and you have a guy that is willing to say things about himself that aren't flattering, as well as things that are. In some ways, he's overly braggadocious, but you can also tell that there are insecurities there. He's a fascinating case study to begin with, and then to the way he dives into these things is really, I don't want to say overwhelming, because I don't find it overwhelming.
Maximalist.
I just find it very interesting.
Maximalist.
The fact
is that the right word?
To be willing to open yourself up to criticism all the time is an interesting thing, to say the least.
That's like part of being famous,
especially
is that you're always being criticized.
Right, which is why if you ask anybody about him, there is an opinion, and that those things like nowadays can become a little. Sometimes you forget why, right? I always tell, like, these guys were criticizing him the other day, maybe a year ago at work, and I went and just pulled up a playlist of his greatest hits and started playing them, and they were like, man, this is so awesome. And I was like, yeah, there's a reason why, regardless of what you think about what he did yesterday, he is who he is. It's because of what he does on records like this.
It's facts. Facts. I will say I don't like the Fergie verse. That is extraneous to the highest degree for me. I don't think it adds anything to this song.
Right.
Next song, Monster. Jeez.
Up a little up and down, I will say, because Rick Ross starts out, he sounds great. Rick Ross always, on this type of beat especially, so good. The husky voice, dude. Kanye drops the bars. They're all pretty good. Jay-Z, with the famously memed verse, listening to it this time, I think the opening bars are not very good at all.
Right.
They're kind of awful. But a lot of the rest of his verse is good to great, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, milling about, spilling their feelings in the air, trying to draw blood from ice cold veins. Like, those bars are good. They're great. It's just, again, the Sasquatch, Godzilla, King Kong, Loch Ness bars where he just lists a bunch of monsters.
Yeah.
Just sounds like he heard Kanye is making a song about monsters. He's like, bro, I know so many monsters. I'm about to go into the booth and drop it.
Which is weird because Kanye made it sound pretty cool in All the Lights.
I know. That's the thing. And then Nicki with the verse that kind of, would you say it kickstarted her career? She was already on the rise then.
This is her verse on this is high level.
It's so much.
Yeah.
Woof.
And I think
I don't know
the reason why I'm willing to
go ahead.
Forgive some of the other verses, while the other verses are good in their own right, I think it's all building up to Nicki.
Right.
And I think that payoff with Nicki is kind of worth enough.
In the way that Scenario hands you Busta.
And actually, yeah. But I feel like a criticism of this album is that the songs are too long, which I can't really say, but I think the songs are long to build to an eventual payoff, whether it's...
And it works here.
Whether it's and it especially works here. Whether it's the Elton John on All the Lights, or the Rick Ross verse on Devil, or the vocoder segment on Runaway, it all is building up to something that's going to tie the song together.
Right.
I think that's why the songs are so long.
Mm-hmm.
So the song's good?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Moving on, we have So Appalled. I really like this song, mainly for how kind of sinister but understated this beat is compared to the more maximalist production on the album. I think its length is to be a palate cleanser. I think Kanye, Pusha T, and Psy all kill their respective verses. And of course there is the kind of infamous "I'm so appalled, Spalding balding Donald Trump taking dollars from y'all." But while many would say, and this aged poorly, and I do get whiplash from this line every time I hear it.
It's funny how it ended up being.
I still think
with hindsight,
I still think it's more interesting than ages poorly. I think it makes it. Some could argue that it makes the album more interesting.
Got it.
How do we feel about this song?
I like Jay-Z's album quite a bit on this.
Jay-Z's album?
Yeah, album. Verse.
Okay.
Jay-Z dropped an entire album on this song?
Yeah, believe it or not. I mean, he's on this album enough. I really like the Swiss Beats refrain. And, excuse me. I really like a lot the chorus with Kanye and Sci-Hi. That gets stuck in my head constantly. I just think, sometimes I just drop that phrase on people. I'm like, dude, effing ridiculous. It's like, you know that is? Effing ridiculous. I say that in my head or out loud.
All the time.
It's an earworm, man. It's an earworm.
Next up we have Devil. Devil in a New Dress. I love this. Dude, this is one of my favorites. I love this freaking song. It is... I love how the thick and velvety the production is.
Yeah.
And I think because it is a kind of darker version of like an old Kanye song, and I think that putting this in the album really does make the argument that this album does pull in all parts of Kanye, because this is a more darkened and modernized version of like slow jams. And I also love this song to death. Just the solo in the middle, Rick Ross's verse at the end is just incredible. The drums. The funny thing is, this is the most Kanye sounding beat, and it wasn't made by Kanye, which you know, it's funny. How do you guys feel about this song?
I think it's probably one of my favorites, especially on this recent listen through. I was like, man, it really blew me away. Just especially the line where he's talking about he gets jerk chicken and she says you are what you eat.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, you always had a sense of humor, but you should have seen how quiet the room was. The visual, the imagery on that line is so good, because you can imagine them sitting at a table with some other people, and the other people are quiet because it's it's kind of true.
Yeah, yeah.
There's that's a joke, ha ha ha, but also
Right. I almost feel like this is a precursor to the next. Like a lot of these songs kind of lead into the next one. They're not. They stand alone, but they also are intros.
I love the way
it
starts into Runaway, because everything just kind of stops, and then the dun. It's such a sweet little
I agree.
Audio thing.
Right. Okay.
Should we go into Runaway?
Go ahead, buddy.
Runaway might be my favorite Kanye song.
Yeah, I think I'm of roughly the same opinion. This is probably my favorite.
It's just there's something so personal and emotional about this song. It's a lot less like some of the album is, which is like how, like you said, how a lot of it has been showing his insecurities, but also kind of been showing him as this man who has all this power.
Braggadocious.
And this song is just so, like, the depressing and lonely piano beat, everything kind of...
The chorus on this is just... hilarious and perfect.
And also,
again, honest in a lot of ways, and especially with the Pusha T verse being kind of like, most of the song is introspective, but the Pusha T verse is almost like the outward facing section of how he feels about this. Like, where instead of being honest like he is through the rest of the song, he says like, split and go where? Back to wearing knockoffs? Like, where are you gonna go? I cheated. Okay, what are you gonna do? Leave me?
Right.
You don't have no money?
Right.
Stuff like that. That's the outward
hurting,
projecting that insecurity, and hurt onto dude, so good.
Right.
And dude, even the vocoder thing at the end, it's kind of where the song to me wraps up.
I will say, that last part's like 4 minutes long, which I find to be excessive, but I like it. It's just 4 minutes long.
Well, I love how you can still kind of make out what Kanye is saying.
The emotion is coming
through all of the, the vocoder and all of that. It's so,
the emotion and the way he's carrying the words still comes through, even if the individual ones aren't there.
Right.
Which is incredible. Moving on to Hell of a Life. Some more modern Kanye song. It kind of sounds like Yeezus a little bit. It could be on Yeezus, but I also probably think it's the better than every song on Yeezus, maybe.
Yeah, no, that's a fact.
Yeah. I like the sharp, almost stabbing sound of the beat. I think the Black Sabbath sample is really cool. It does kind of, it takes a new breath and a new fresh take on an old classic. And probably my favorite part of the song is like afterwards, when it's just kind of the bass of the song and the breathing, and then it's just Kanye slowly breathing into a mic. He sounds so exhausted because it's got married in the bathroom, divorced, all that, and then it's just exhausted.
Right.
It's incredible to me. How do you guys feel about this?
Oh, I like it. I like it a lot.
I enjoy it.
I'm sorry, but the awkward silence after. I enjoy it. All right, moving on to Blame Game.
Let's play the blame game. John Legend.
Catchy. Might be one of my favorite vocal performances by John Legend. Just ever.
I'm not like super familiar with his stuff, but man,
I've never listened to a John Legend album.
Yeah.
So.
Dude, you never heard Ordinary People? We're just ordinary people.
I've never heard that.
Really?
I don't think.
Ordinary People is one of the great songs. Just period. You should check that out sometime.
Blame Game kind of builds on a lot of the same insecurities that came through with Runaway. I feel like those two songs are matched, and that's actually a criticism I have, is like putting Hell of a Life between them. The tonal shift is a little weird for me. Like, I feel like Hell of a Life should probably have gone before Runaway, and then Blame Game.
But if Hell of a Life
makes sense?
went before Runaway, you wouldn't have that transition from Devil to Runaway.
I mean, yeah, but they could do it the other way or something.
Okay. I love this song. I really like the moment where Kanye starts getting uncomfortably angry. And then the whole vocal effects thing, and then it starts to resemble almost a brutally deformed version of a love ballad.
It's rough, yeah.
It is rough. A lot of the content here is tough.
Tough to stomach.
Rough territory, yes, for people to deal with.
How it transitions from his relationship with the public to his relationship with relationships.
Right, and the dysfunction in all of that.
Also, let's talk about the infamous or famous Chris Rock feature. I think it's a bit of needed comic relief.
It's funny, but it hurts so bad. You know what I mean?
Oh,
it hurts. Like, when I listened to it, I was like, God, I wanted to laugh,
cringe.
but man, it
cringe.
sucks.
Yeah.
I'm just like, bro, I feel for him. Yeah, this sucks.
Yeah. It is cringy.
But dang, Chris Rock killing it, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course.
I'm a shoot a bootlegger. Which is so funny.
Yeah.
Dropping bars.
I'm a shoot a bootlegger. I love that line so much, man. It gets me.
Then we get into Lost in the World. Might be my second favorite song on this album. This song is actually Kanye's love letter to Kim Kardashian. At least the lyrics are. Kim actually released that on her Twitter. And the way that it's so maximalist. Just all of it, and kind of the landscape that it builds, and the way that it goes back. It starts out so like kind of tender with the Bon Iver bit, and then it just escalates and escalates. And that Run From the Lights bit on the second thing might be my favorite moment in any Kanye song ever, if not my favorite moment in any closer ever. It's so, again, maximalist. It's so Kanye.
You say that a lot during this album.
Yeah,
it's loud. The production's layered and cacophonous in a lot of ways.
This album is some of the best production I've ever heard.
So is that the answer to what do you think about the production on the album?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
really good.
It's like great.
Yeah. Well, he's a producer.
And then it transitions into Who Will Survive in America.
Yeah, I kind of count both of these songs as like one entity.
Yeah,
which is why you called it a closer.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Who Will Survive in America? I think this ties a great bow around the album, and I think it's the applause and everything. I think it's a good way to close it. I actually really like the drums on this. And I think everything kind of feels important with, I forget his name, but the dude who was preaching.
Gil Scott-Heron.
I just like this song a lot. How do you guys?
I think it kind of describes the black ideal of the American dream being kind of warped in a lot of ways by how history has been. So Kanye comes up hearing about that, and he thinks, I just want a good wife and a good life and some children and some food to feed them and all that, and how that may have been his goal at some point, but the reality of being famous and wanting to be famous has warped that ideal perception of life into something completely different. Like the whole thing where he falls in love with the porn star and all that, like the difference between that and just wanting a simple and good life is stark, and I feel like that's the point.
Well said. Absolutely.
I don't like the bubbling part. The bubbling part always throws me off because I'm like, man, bubbling? You had to use that? That's an awful word. But I get what he's describing is awful.
Right. Oh man, he does not dance around what he's trying to say to you. He says it all very plainly and very clearly, even when he's giving you multiple avenues to take his thoughts down.
All right. So should we say something else, or should we rate it out of 10 right now?
If you want to.
All right. What are we gonna rate this out of 10? Dad?
8. I'll give it an 8 out of 10.
I'm also gonna give it an 8 out of 10.
I don't know if there's a single part of this album that I disliked.
I had a feeling since we broke down every single song, you were going to be pretty high on it.
I have some issues with the album as a whole, but I don't think they really mar the overall feeling for me. Like, dude, I put this album on at least once every couple months. I had a CD of it in my car that I played literally dozens of times.
Right.
I'm very familiar with this album.
I think every song kind of has its purpose and does its purpose very well. This is my second favorite album of the 2010s. I think right behind T-Pab.
T-Pab is excellent.
I think I gotta give this a 10. I don't.
That's fair.
This is my favorite Kanye album.
I would say I might say College Dropout's my favorite, but it's up there for me.
My one critique of College Dropout is that sometimes the skits can get a bit much.
Skits on albums are so hit or miss, and mostly miss.
But
where it's like I don't want to hear some weird thing where some dude's talking about buying weed or something lame. You know what I mean? Describe that to me in the songs, man. You know?
That's a problem with a lot of the albums from that time, and especially like with College Dropout specifically, it's kind of surprising that the skits haven't aged extraordinarily poorly. I think it's probably the best age skits in any album. I think Late Registration skits are particularly kind of funnier.
Yeah.
But
no, I agree with that.
I think this album, everything comes together. Even afterwards, it's like Life of Pablo, but with a thematic consistency. I'm sorry.
Life of Pablo has some absolute bangers on it, but like, man, sometimes it just feels a little lost.
You know a song I really love on that?
What?
And I don't even know if it's a song. Is that whole I Love the Old Kanye?
Oh, dude, Silver Surfer Intermission?
That is so good.
Dude,
And it's like, I get totally where he's coming from, because if you're an artist, any artist, at some point, you get to the point where they're like, oh, well, I was a fan of Green Day when it was Basket Case. I was a fan of Guns N' Roses when it was just
Jared.
Appetite for Destruction. I was a fan of Metallica when it was just Kill 'Em All or Ride the Lightning. So you get where every artist has been through that.
People like the safe, established stuff, and they don't want you... A lot of people don't want you to experiment. They just want you to keep making that kind of music.
Absolutely.
And it absolutely puts limits on you as an artist. Where and then it's just like, man, are you going to listen to those guys who literally just want you to make a second My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy? Or are you going to make something else?
Right. Well, it's like, too, like people who say, well, finally on Purple Rain, Prince put together one solid, consistent theme. And I'm like, yeah, but he put every single song ever, he put every single genre ever in Sign of the Times. It's way better. You know what I mean? I get that you like it because it's one thing, but I also am fascinated by an artist giving me 25 things on an album, and done properly, that's more impressive. It's just incredibly hard to do that properly. To take 10 different avenues of music down one album is very hard to do. It's way easier to give me Back in Black. You know what I'm saying? Where you know what I mean?
I was going to make an AC/DC joke at some point.
That it's got to. It had to be in there somehow or another.
It had to.
They had a winning formula, man. They wanted to stick with it. That's perfectly fine.
Oh, dude!
If you could just make Thunderstruck 20 times,
definitely.
I mean, I'm still gonna listen to Thunderstruck more, but at least there are 20 other Thunderstrucks. Thunderstruck's a really good song.
But like with Def Leppard, you can't blame them or Bon Jovi when they get to a point where an arena is screaming the chorus. And you know how to write songs that have an arena chant a chorus, it would probably be hard to get away from that version of arena rock. Whereas a Queen, for example, which leans more my way, they do write the song where it's...
Yes.
But they also do something else.
They do Bohemian Rhapsody.
I'm in love with my car. You know what I'm saying?
They do You're My Best Friend.
Yeah. You get everything with Queen.
Yeah, and that's the famous Axl Rose quote. When I grew up, I thought rock music was art, and Queen was my argument. There you go. You know what I
mean? Should we be talking about what we have been listening to?
Let me pull it up real quick.
Kanye for a friggin' week. No, I'm just kidding.
Dude, I listened to this album once.
Oh yeah, you were ready to go.
I was ready to go.
Right.
Yeah. Right. I tried. Okay. Should we talk about our Spotify Wrapped?
Man, my Spotify Wrapped... No, let me get mad at you for a second.
First of all, if you're on Spotify and you go to a section, click to Wrapped, it will tell you what you've listened to, what your most... how many new artists you put into your catalog this year, all kind of things like that. So go ahead and tell us.
I'll just present my Spotify Wrapped. Jared will be last.
Okay.
Starting off, my top genres were number 1, rock, number 2, hip hop, number 3, emo, number 4, indie rock, number 5, punk. I don't really know how you separate rock from emo from indie rock. I don't really know how you do that.
I've noticed some weird things people have been talking about with a lot of the genres. I mean, genre in general is like a weird categorization to do.
Especially if you're adding some genres.
Yeah, because it's like how much bleed over. It's like, dude, like half of music is rock in some form or another.
Right, but
you know what I mean?
It's 400 genres.
Yeah, but it's emo rock, it's pop rock, it's classic rock, it's heavy rock, it's there's so much stuff. Yeah.
I will say this though, I did get a new Spotify account in like the middle of the year, so not a lot of Oasis, not a lot of stuff I was listening to at the start.
Right.
Just my top song of the year was "Limousine" by Brand New. I don't really have a problem with this. This is a great song. I don't... Arguably my favorite song ever, and it kind of shows. My top songs... Alright. This is what I'm kind of peeved at. Number 1, Limousine by Brand New. Number 2, Not the Sun by Brand New. Number 3, You Won't Know by Brand New. Number 4, The View from the Afternoon by the Arctic Monkeys. Number 5, Degasser by Brand New.
There's a trend.
A lot of times I do this weird thing when I go on Spotify, which is I click on one song like for a millisecond, then I click on another, and then I click on another song. It's a weird thing that I do. It's just kind of weird that
I listen to that album a lot. It's all from the same album.
Yeah, it's weird. I didn't really know I listened to that album a lot.
You've listed it as your favorite like one of your favorite albums over and over.
Yeah.
It's not that surprising.
My pioneer was Joji's Pretty Boy featuring Lil Yachty before it hit 50,000 streams.
My pioneer was a song I don't think I ever listened to.
Ooh.
I had no clue. It was some random song.
That's some government infiltration stuff right there. Getting into your mind without you knowing.
Pretty Boy.
I like
making me listen to like weird indie music.
Yes.
Gross.
Because that's what the government wants.
I do that anyways, to be fair.
Yeah. It's a good song. I like how bad it sounds. This specific song.
Dang, no wonder you're a Weezer fan.
Oh. Ow!
Weezer is 100 Gex the new Weezer?
I can't even begin to process the ideas you've put forth, so I'm gonna ignore that and maybe respond to that at a later time.
What if 100 Gex next album is Pinkerton? Their own Pinkerton.
I'd love it, dude. I would literally have it on repeat if they put out music that good.
Number 1, these are my top artists. Number 1 was Brand New. Number 2, Red Hot Chili Peppers, which kind of surprised me. Number 3 was Kanye. Number 4 was Radiohead. Number 5 was Arctic Monkeys. I'm alright with this. I've always kind of hailed Brand New as the best band of the 21st century. At least best rock band.
I'm surprised they didn't show up, considering how much, like 4 out of your 5 top songs were them. That's always the weird thing about stuff like this, is you may just end up listening to like a wider berth of one artist. So if you listen to like 4 albums from one artist, or you listen to like one album on repeat from another one, you might just get the 4 album one. You know what I mean? That's the weird part, and that's definitely what happened with me in my top artist, but we'll get there.
Of course, Red Hot Chili Peppers, great band. Kanye, we just talked about him. Radiohead, I don't have to say anything. Arctic Monkeys, I don't really think I have to say anything about the other ones. That's about it. I listened to 8,645 minutes. Just of Spotify, I'm guessing. Yeah.
Excellent.
So, Dad, do you have anything to talk about with yours?
I took some pictures. I didn't go as deep into it as you did, my dear friend.
I took some pictures too.
Let's see. What we got here? I listened to 183 new artists this year. I found ways to grow even in this time, according to Spotify. Thank you, Spotify. I listened to 267 genres of music, including 119 new ones.
That's a lot of genres.
My top genres were rock, hippity hop, the hip hop. I like the hippity hop, they say. The kids say that sometimes.
You do like the hippity hop.
The hippity hoppity.
Hippity
stuff.
hoppity whippity.
That's what Gen Zers are calling it.
Number 3 was Motown.
The stupid Zoomers.
Number 4 would be soft rock, which I did not think was going to fall in there.
What falls in that category?
I have no clue.
Soft rock, I would guess like acoustic.
I'm hoping Air Supply. I'm hoping I listened to more Air Supply than I realized I listened to. My guess is somehow 1999 wound up in soft rock, which I don't know how, but I'll tell you why in a minute. Hyperpop was number 5 for me.
That's what I'm talking about, baby.
This year.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes. Now my...
You know, this podcast is really cool because it gets people to listen to a lot of things they don't listen to a lot.
Now my number 1 song of the year was Little Red Corvette, and there's a trick to that.
There's a trick.
I have a friend that we sing into one another's
Who's this friend? Oh, I have a friend that...
Jam Band Mike is his name.
Right.
That's his God-given name, Jam Band Mike.
Yes, that's on the birth certificate.
And since college, we have left songs on one another's answering machines is what they had back then in the old days with the rotary phone. And since college, so we're going on 30 years of singing into one another's phones. And Little Red Corvette was the song that I did for him this year. So, of course, I had to listen to it like literally 30 times to try to sing it and get it right and all that. And so that would be why it was Song of the Year for me, which I assume that going forward, whatever song I'm singing to the dude will wind up being Song of the Year for me.
So that one
Cherub Rock was second. Disarm was third.
Okay.
This is crazy. You want to hear what's crazy? I can't even believe this. It's a Raid featuring Post Malone off Ozzy Osbourne's album.
You got a Post Malone guy over here, huh?
Yeah, and Bleeding in the Blur by Code Orange was number 5.
Okay.
No clue how that happened.
That's kind of insane.
Well, that's the weird thing about a lot of stuff like this. When you collect data without showing like the actual numbers, again, there's so much that can be skewed just due to...
Yeah, that could be 10.
That could be 10. You could have literally listened to so much music, but just not listened to it more than like twice.
Yeah.
A piece. That stuff like that. Or like, let's just say for a crazy example, if you listen to an artist's entire discography for some kind of podcast you were doing, they may appear as your number one artist.
I'm done, so you could maybe talk about that.
Yeah, Green Day is my number one artist.
Whoa, let's go. Green Day Mark over here.
Because I listened to their whole discography on this Spotify account. 500 minutes of it. Evidently.
Cool, I did it on YouTube.
That would have been the appropriate choice.
500 minutes of Green Day for that podcast.
Man, on like 400 of those I hated.
Oh.
I didn't hate. They were just not very good. No, I did listen to like Insomniac, and I listened to Insomniac like 4 or 5 times, honestly. I really liked it.
Dookie.
I listened to Dookie 3-ish, 4-ish times, somewhere around there. And then I listened to American Idiot about 3 times through, and then the rest of it once. And evidently that added up to 500 minutes, making Green Day my number one artist.
Wow. Congratulations.
Again, but that's what's so fascinating.
I think I could call you Billy Joe from here on out.
No, please God, no.
You're an American Idiot, huh?
I listened to... This is mostly at the beginning of the year when I listened to it. Because when I didn't have a job, I really didn't listen to music all that often, outside of like doing it for the podcast. Mm-hmm. But driving around gives so many good opportunities to listen to music, I swear. Parquet Courts should have been my number one. Parquet Courts, specifically their album Wide Awake, I listened to a ton. Mm-hmm. Love that album. That's all I want to say.
Okay.
I just listened to a lot of Parquet Courts, Igor, 100 Gex, Kids See Ghosts. Listen to a lot of Kids See Ghosts, actually.
Right. It's good stuff.
What song is it specifically?
Well, my number one song, Fourth Dimension. No.
It wasn't
It says Feel the Love is actually the number one song, then Fourth Dimension.
It wasn't Basket Case?
No Green Day song appears in my top 100 songs.
Is that your defense?
That's how you know it is a statistical error.
It's screwed up. I don't know.
Defense.
I literally don't think a Green Day song is in my top 100. A lot of Tribe Called Quest, because I've been bumping that recently, too. The Low End Theory.
So good.
Dude, Excursion?
Yeah. What did we listen to this week?
This week, I tried out the new Arctic Monkeys live album. It's a live album. I mean, some performances were really good, like the 505 performance specifically, but some weren't that great, like the I Bet You Look Good on the Dance Floor performance, mainly because they made that song when they were a lot younger and angrier, so this version's kind of a little more slowed down. Jared, what'd you listen to this week?
I listened to a lot of, I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing this correctly, Rina Sawayama's Sawayama. It's a throwback.
It's kind of a mixture between like new metal and like pop.
It fuses a lot of elements of like early 2000s music, everything from like Limp Bizkit to like Britney Spears. Fuses it together and just makes some really, really enjoyable pop.
Like real hyper pop.
Yeah.
Just like a weird like smorgasbord of 2000s.
For a while, I thought I just didn't like pop, but I really like Carly Rae Jepsen. I really like this album. So it just always confuses me why Charlie XCX just does nothing for me. I'm so baffled because people praise her music so highly, but every time I listen to it, there's just nothing for me.
Yeah.
I'm just so confused. I think it's like the production's so smooth, I just gloss over it, no friction.
Right.
I just slide right across the song. Meanwhile, stuff like this has like texture to it.
Right.
It's weird because you don't you love Weezer's Blue album?
I love Weezer.
That's kind of like a more pop-centered production thing.
There's so many reasons why I should like Charlie XCX's music, but the album Charlie, I listened to it like 5 times, and it just did nothing.
Dude,
it's weird.
Weird.
But that's the weird thing about taste. Some things can be right in your wheelhouse, and for whatever reason, it doesn't hit home with you. And then something else, you go, well, I don't like anything around what that person did, but that is great.
Perfect.
That one band, AFI. This is gonna probably get me canceled, but I don't like AFI that much. Canceled's the wrong word, but I'm not the biggest fan of AFI. I just hate the lead singer's voice.
Gonna get accused of having bad taste.
I just hate the lead singer's voice so much. I even dislike him more than like Tom DeLonge.
If you don't like a singer's voice, it is impossible to wade through their discography.
The only song that I've actually enjoyed by them was Girls Not Grey. And that's because the chorus is more of a chant and not this lead singer's voice.
Right.
It's always the issue I have with, like, people have with Rush. It's just like, dang, the guitars, the drums, amazing. Just don't like Geddy Lee's voice.
And
I don't have a problem with it personally.
If you don't like Geddy Lee's voice, there's no way to like Rush. If you don't like Billy Corgan's voice, there's no way to like.
If you don't like Liam Gallagher's voice, there's no way you're gonna like Oasis. If you don't,
correct.
It's such an instrumental part of the music.
If you don't like, I don't think there's a way to completely dislike Billy Joe Armstrong's voice, but the personality he has with his voice, is more of a thing people dislike.
Yeah.
But I also listened to Bitches Brew by Miles Davis.
Wonderful. We listened to
Kind of Blue
last week, right? I'll just focus on a couple of things. Legacy of the Beast Maiden is a new live album they put out that I've been listening to a little bit. I listened to the Rolling Stones live album Sticky Fingers, where they did that album in its entirety in 2015. And I listened to Live at the Jazz Cafe in London, D'Angelo was another one that record. I go back to that an awful lot. I love D'Angelo in general, and I absolutely love that particular version of it because it's just a beautiful record of just.
Because I did have actually took a break from Brand New. Because I had so much of it in my Spotify Wrapped. I tested to see if I still liked it. I still like it a lot.
Yeah, you think?
Is that a rap, guys?
I think that's a rap.
Right.
Other than the fact that I listened to In the Airplane Over the Sea.
Quite good.
Which, probably the definitive indie album.
Just, awesome.
Like ever.
Yeah, I have a hard time naming something else.
So for Go Home Heat Ray's music reviews,
Pinkerton.
Copyright 2020. I don't think Pinkerton's in there.
No.
Jared.
I don't know why I said my name. Me.
Ray.
Green Day Jared.
Myself KP.
We are signing off.
Go home.
Go home.